Stepmom forced poor girl to marry a billionaire CEO. But after one night, he couldn't let her go. She was just a poor girl, struggling to survive, unseen and unloved, until the day her stepmother did the unthinkable. With a forged signature and a cold smile, Emily Carter was sold off like property to a billionaire CEO known for his ruthless business deals and icy heart, Daniel Grayson. No love, no choice, just a contract and a wedding date. He was rich, powerful, dangerous, and after just one night, something in his eyes shifted. Obsession? Protection? Or something much darker? Whatever it was, there was no turning back. She had no idea she was walking into something much deeper and far more dangerous. Subscribe, like, and comment. If you love intense love stories full of suspense and drama, subscribe now. Smash that like button and tell us in the comments. What would you do if your life changed overnight? Now let begin. The pen didn't even tremble in Clarissa Carter's hand as she signed the contract. Her stepdaughter's name, Emily Carter, looped in flawless cursive at the bottom of the marriage agreement. "She'll thank me one day," Clarissa muttered coldly, sliding the papers across the polished glass desk. Across from her sat Daniel Grayson's personal attorney, nodding with approval. Outside, Manhattan traffic hummed like a countdown. Emily, barely 18, knew nothing of what was happening. She thought she had time. But by the time she returned home from her part-time shift at the bookstore, her future had already been sold. Emily walked in, soaked from unexpected rain, the scent of old paper and street dust clinging to her clothes. "You're late," Clarissa snapped, standing in the foyer with an envelope in hand. "What's this?" Emily asked, confused. "Your future," Clarissa replied smugly. "You're getting married." The world seemed to stop. "What?" Emily whispered. "To who?" Clarissa didn't blink. "Daniel Grayson. Billionaire. CEO. He's powerful enough to protect his family. You should be grateful." Emily's heart slammed in her chest. "You forged my signature?" Clarissa only smiled. "You'll wear the dress, say your vows, and do your duty. That's final." Emily ran to her father's office, tears already rising. "Dad, tell me this isn't real." Richard Carter, her once loving father, looked away. "It's done," he muttered. There was no other way. Emily's voice cracked. "I'm not property. How could you let her do this?" Richard looked 10 years older in that moment. "We owe the Graysons everything. This saved the company, and you..." "Saves me," she screamed. "You're handing me over to a stranger." Clarissa appeared behind her. "You'll be his wife by next weekend, and if you try to run, he'll find you." Her smile chilled Emily to the bone. The wedding came fast. Too fast. A private ceremony in the Grayson Estate's marble hall, witnessed by board members and cold-eyed strangers. Emily stood stiffly in white lace, trembling under crystal chandeliers. Daniel Grayson didn't smile. He was tall, precise, and distant, like a sculpture come to life. He nodded once when she approached. "I trust the contract was explained." "Not to me," she whispered, but she said the vows anyway. Her heart beat against her ribs like a prisoner pounding on cell walls. When Daniel slid the ring onto her finger, something in his eyes flickered, unreadable. They signed the final documents in silence. Emily watched her name appear again, this time legally binding. "You'll move in tonight," Daniel said. "Your things will be delivered." Clarissa grinned from across the room, victorious. Emily stared at her stepmother. "You never loved me." Clarissa didn't argue. "Love has nothing to do with this. This is survival." Daniel's driver opened the door to the limousine. Emily hesitated. This was it. No escape. She stepped in, the doors closing like a vault. Daniel sat beside her, unreadable. "We'll keep things formal. I won't touch you without your permission." That oddly stunned her. The mansion loomed like a fortress. 5 stories of gray stone and shimmering windows on the edge of Connecticut. Emily stared as they pulled up. "Home," Daniel said simply. She swallowed hard. "This feels like a prison." He didn't reply. Inside, marble floors reflected gold light. Staff moved quietly, avoiding her eyes. You'll have your own wing, Daniel told her. No expectations beyond appearances. I don't believe in forcing anything. Emily didn't trust him, but his tone wasn't cruel. She was escorted upstairs, past antique paintings and locked doors, until she reached a room larger than her entire apartment. Emily stood at the window, looking out over cold gardens and trimmed hedges. She didn't cry, not yet. Instead, she whispered, "This can't be real." A knock at the door. She turned. Daniel stood in the hallway, holding something unexpected, a leather-bound sketchbook and a box of graphite pencils. "I saw your drawings on your college application," he said. "You should keep creating." She blinked. "Why would you care?" He looked away. "Because I remember what it's like to be trapped." For a second, his mask slipped, then he nodded and left. Emily stared at the gift, stunned. Later that night, she sat on the edge of the enormous bed, unable to sleep. The silence was suffocating. Her thoughts spun in circles, betrayal, confusion, fear, but also curiosity. Daniel hadn't acted like she expected. No demands, no threats, just distance and strange kindness. Why? Downstairs, she heard classical music drifting up from the parlor. Was he awake too? She crept down quietly, peeking around the corner. Daniel sat alone, reading by the fireplace. For a brief second, he looked human, sad even. She backed away before he noticed. But something in her heart twisted. Not fear, something else. The next morning, Clarissa called to check in. Emily didn't answer. Daniel did. "She's unavailable," he said coldly. "If you contact her again without permission, there will be legal consequences." He hung up before Clarissa could reply. Emily overheard the call. "Why did you say that?" she asked. "Because you belong to no one, Emily," he said. "Not even to me." Her breath caught. For the first time, someone wasn't trying to control her, not even her legal husband. The fear didn't vanish, but it shifted into something more dangerous. Daniel Grayson was still a mystery, but he wasn't her enemy. Days turned to weeks. Emily adjusted to mansion life. Cautiously, she took walks in the greenhouse, painted in the sunroom, and avoided unnecessary conversations. Daniel worked late, rarely speaking unless necessary. But every time he passed her, he paused, as if checking she was still okay. One night, during dinner, he asked softly, "What would you do if this wasn't your life?" She looked up. "I'd go to art school, travel, be free." He nodded slowly. "Maybe someday you still will." The way he said it, like a promise, sent a shiver through her. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't alone. Weeks passed. The mansion no longer felt like a prison, more like a museum she hadn't finished exploring. Daniel remained distant but respectful, always keeping his word. No pressure, no touch, no demands. One morning, a package arrived. Inside was a letter of acceptance to a prestigious online art program. "Your application was impressive," Daniel said when she found him in the library. "I only helped submit it." Emily stared at him. "Why would you do this?" He didn't flinch. "Because someone once clipped my wings. I won't do that to you." For the first time, she almost smiled. That weekend, Daniel invited her to accompany him to a corporate gala. "You don't have to speak," he said. "Just stand beside me." Emily hesitated. "I don't have anything to wear." The next day, the stylist arrived with 5 gowns. Emily chose a sleek, black one that made her feel powerful, not pretty. At the gala, the world turned when they walked in. Flashbulbs, murmurs, 100 eyes locked onto her. "Smile," Daniel whispered. "You're terrifying them." She smirked despite herself. Daniel held her hand gently, but the way he stared at her that night felt different. Too different. It unsettled her. During the event, Emily noticed a tall, sharp-eyed woman watching her from across the room. Daniel stiffened when he saw her. "That's Cassandra Wren," he muttered. "My ex-fiancée." Emily blinked. "She looks like she wants to kill me." "She's a vulture," Daniel said flatly. "We ended things badly." Cassandra approached with a venomous smile. "Daniel and the wife." Emily held her ground. "Nice to meet you," she said with a calm voice. Cassandra's smile didn't fade. Is she even legal? Daniel's jaw clenched. Walk away, Cassandra. She did, slowly. But Emily knew she'd just made an enemy, one who didn't forgive. Back at the estate, Emily stood in front of the mirror, unzipping her gown. She hates me, she said softly. Daniel was behind her, tie loosened. She hates herself, he corrected. Don't take her personally. Emily turned to face him. Why did you really marry me? For once, he didn't dodge the question. Originally, for leverage. Your father owed me. Your stepmother made an offer. But he stopped. But, she pressed. But I didn't expect you, he said, voice quiet. Didn't expect to care. Emily's chest tightened. She didn't want to believe him. Didn't want to feel anything. But she did. Late that night, she dreamed of chains breaking, of running barefoot through fields, of laughter. She awoke to silence. The mansion glowed faintly from moonlight. Emily stepped into the hallway and wandered barefoot until she found Daniel in the indoor greenhouse. He was watering orchids. Can't sleep, he asked. Neither can I. She joined him, their shoulders nearly touching. You're not who I thought you were, she said. Neither are you, he replied. The warmth between them grew thick, unspoken, a humming tension. Then she stepped back. Good night. She left quickly, heart pounding. Behind her, Daniel stood still for a long time. The next day, Emily returned from her online class to find an entire art studio arranged in sunroom. New easels, charcoal sets, pastel racks, everything. A note in Daniel's handwriting read, "This space belongs to you." She sat down and cried, silently. No one had ever given her anything without expecting something back. That evening, Daniel knocked gently. Can I come in? She nodded. He looked around the studio, impressed. You're talented. She looked at him. And you're not as cold as they say. Careful, he said with a rare smile. You're going to ruin my reputation. She smiled back. That night, Clarissa called again. This time, Emily picked up. You sound happy, her stepmother said with a sneer. Don't forget how you got there. I'll never forget, Emily said coldly. And I'll never forgive you. Clarissa laughed. You think he loves you? You're just a trophy. Emily hung up. Her hands shook. Daniel found her pacing. What happened? He asked. She told him. His face darkened. She has no power over you anymore. But Emily wasn't so sure. Clarissa had a way of poisoning everything. Then why do I still feel like she's winning? She whispered. Daniel didn't have an answer. The next weekend, Daniel took her to a quiet art gallery uptown. No cameras, no press, he promised. Just a date, if you want it. Emily hesitated. A real date. You choose, he said. Dinner, movies, silence, anything. She nodded slowly. At the gallery, they wandered together, shoulder to shoulder. She talked about her favorite styles, and he listened, genuinely. At one painting, she paused. A woman alone in a golden room. That was me, she said. Before all this, he looked at her. And now I'm not alone, she said. His expression softened. Not anymore, he agreed. Back at home, he surprised her with dessert. Chocolate cake. It's the one thing I actually know how to make, he admitted. We had this the night of our wedding, she said. Instead of expectations. He nodded. Best decision I ever made. They sat in silence, eating. Then Emily said quietly, if this weren't an arrangement, would you have chosen me? Daniel looked at her like she was made of fire and glass. I didn't at first, but I would now. Her heart stuttered. Something inside her opened like a flower leaning into the sun. For the first time, she believed him. That night, alone in her room, Emily stared at her reflection. The girl who once felt disposable was gone. In her place stood a woman with choices, power, hope. She wasn't sure what this marriage would become, but Daniel had given her room to grow. And maybe, just maybe, he'd fallen too. She opened her sketchbook and drew his eyes, gray, unreadable, but no longer cold. Below them, she wrote one word, possibility. Then she closed the book, smiled to herself, and whispered, we'll see. The future was still uncertain. But now, for the first time in her life, it was hers. Emily's peace shattered when she overheard the staff whispering. "Clarissa's been spotted meeting with Daniel's rival," the maid said. "She's up to something." Emily's hands clenched. Back in her room, she found a letter shoved beneath the door. No return address. Just 6 words. "You'll never be more than property." Emily's chest tightened. She showed it to Daniel, who turned pale. "This is her. She's trying to destabilize you." Emily stood her ground. Then let her try. But fear crept back into her. Clarissa wasn't done. And Emily was starting to wonder if this life, this fragile happiness, was ever real. Days later, Clarissa arrived unannounced. She swept into the estate like she still owned it. Daniel met her at the front hall. "Leave," he said coldly. Clarissa smirked. "I came to check on my sweet daughter. You know, the one you bought." Emily stepped out behind him. "You lost the right to call me daughter when you signed me away." Clarissa clicked her tongue. "And yet here you are, in silk, in a mansion. Maybe I did you a favor." "Get out," Daniel growled, "before I call security." Clarissa's expression turned icy. "You'll regret this." Her voice dripped poison. Then she left. Emily sank into the sofa, shaking. Why did she come? Daniel poured her water. "Because she's losing control of you." Emily whispered, "She scares me." He knelt in front of her. "Then I'll protect you. Always." His words warmed her, but trust was fragile. That night, Emily dreamed of her childhood. Small hands, locked doors, cold food. Clarissa's voice always telling her she wasn't enough. When she woke up, Daniel was gone on a trip. Alone again, the silence fell heavy. She wandered the halls of the mansion, unsure if she was still safe, or just comfortably caged. At dusk, a call came. It was Daniel. "I miss you," he said simply. Emily's chest ached. "It's only been a day." "Still," he said, "I miss you." Then he hesitated. "I've been thinking, maybe it's time to talk about what this marriage really means." Emily froze. "What do you mean?" "I mean feelings," he said. "Mine are shifting, and I think yours are too." Her breath caught. "I don't know what I feel yet." "That's okay," he said gently. "Just don't run from it. We've come too far for that." After the call, Emily sat in silence. Everything was changing. The next morning, a sleek black car waited outside. A chauffeur handed Emily an envelope. Inside, a note from Daniel. "Meet me where the story changed." She knew exactly where. The courthouse where they were married. Curious and nervous, she climbed in. At the courthouse steps, Daniel was waiting, dressed in gray. "Why are we here?" she asked. "Because this is where our contract began," he said, "and I want to tear it up." He pulled out the original marriage agreement, the one Clarissa signed, and burned it right there on the marble steps. "No more contracts," he said. "Only choice." Back at the mansion, they walked the gardens quietly. Emily asked, "Are you saying we start over?" "Yes," Daniel replied. "No pressure. Just 2 people figuring things out." Emily stared at him. "And if I say I need space?" "I'll give it," he said, "but I'll wait." Something in her chest cracked open. The part of her that had always braced for pain, for disappointment, started to relax. "Then let's try," she whispered. That night, she moved her things out of guest wing and into the main suite, not as a prisoner, but as someone choosing her own story. A week later, Emily submitted her first artwork to a local exhibit under a pseudonym. It was a sketch titled "Cage Girl, Open Door." Daniel found her crying afterward. "They accepted it," she said, voice trembling. "Of course they did," he replied, holding her. "You're brilliant." Word spread about the mysterious new artist with haunting portraits. But Emily stayed quiet, letting her work speak. Clarissa tried calling again. Emily didn't answer. This time, she chose silence over chaos. Daniel watched her grow, never rushing her. And slowly, Emily began to believe that maybe, just maybe, she belonged in this new life. Trouble came unexpectedly. One afternoon, a lawyer arrived at the gate with papers. Clarissa is suing for a portion of Daniel's assets, he told them, claiming coercion and abuse in the marriage arrangement. Emily was stunned. She's flipping the story? She's desperate, Daniel muttered. But Emily's heart sank. This would get public. The media would twist it. Her art, her privacy, her healing, all at risk. She wants to destroy us, she said. We won't let her, Daniel replied. But the storm had started, and Emily knew. Clarissa never lost quietly. The next day, news broke. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire's marriage based on secret contract." Paparazzi camped outside the mansion. Emily became a symbol, either a gold digger or a victim, depending on the outlet. But the worst came when an old clip surfaced. Clarissa admitting, on a phone call, that she sold the girl like a chess piece. Emily watched it in horror. "It's her voice," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "We'll take her down." "But what if the damage is already done?" she asked. "What if we can't escape this?" Daniel pulled her close. "Then we don't run. We fight." That night, Emily stood in her studio surrounded by unfinished canvases. She picked up her charcoal and began drawing again, not for escape, but for power, for clarity. When she finished, it was a portrait of herself, fierce, unapologetic, eyes full of fire. Below it, she wrote, "I am not a victim." Then she turned off the light and walked to Daniel's office. "Let's take her down," she said. "On my terms." Daniel smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that." They weren't just going to survive. They were going to win. Together, the courtroom was packed. Cameras flashed. Reporters lined the halls. Clarissa sat in the defendant's chair, calm as ever, but her eyes betrayed the panic behind her mask. Emily sat beside Daniel, head high, strength radiating from her like armor. The voice recording was played aloud. Clarissa's own words condemning her. "I sold that girl like a chess piece." Gasps echoed. Emily closed her eyes as tears welled. It was over. The judge didn't even need time to deliberate. Guilty on all counts: fraud, coercion, emotional abuse. Clarissa was let out in cuffs. She didn't look back. Later that evening, as the sunset cast a golden hue over the city, Emily stood in the mansion garden. The flowers Daniel had planted for her swayed gently in the breeze. For the first time in her life, she felt safe, truly safe. Daniel approached, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "She's gone," he whispered. Emily nodded. "And I'm still standing." "You're more than standing," he said. "You're soaring." But before they could speak more, a car pulled up. A man stepped out slowly, older, worn down by time. "Emily," he called softly. "It's me, your father." She froze. Her heart thudded. "Dad," she whispered. Daniel stepped aside, giving them space. Her father walked toward her, eyes full of regret. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," he said. "I let her do this to you. I turned away when you needed me most." "Why?" Emily's voice cracked. "Why did you let her sell me like property?" Her father's eyes filled with tears. "Because I was weak and stupid. But seeing you today, seeing what you've built, I'm ashamed I ever doubted you." Emily hesitated, then stepped forward. She didn't hug him, not yet, but she didn't walk away. Healing wouldn't come overnight, but this was a start. That night, Daniel and Emily sat on their favorite balcony. The city lights glowed below. "You were amazing today," he whispered. "No," she said, laying her head on his shoulder. "We were amazing." He placed a hand gently on her belly. "And now we're bringing someone new into this world. Someone who will never know the kind of pain you did. They'll only know love," Emily replied. "Real love." She smiled. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't been forced together?" Daniel laughed. "We would have found each other anyway." Months passed, filled with peace and preparation. Emily transformed the nursery herself, painting clouds on the ceiling. Her artwork began selling under her real name. Galleries called. Interviews followed. She was no longer just a story. She was a movement, a symbol of healing. Daniel built a charitable foundation in her name, funding shelters for girls in dangerous homes. "We can't change the past," he said, "but we can rewrite the future." Emily wept when she saw the first shelter sign, the Emily Grace Haven. Her name, her strength, her story, now saving others. The night the baby came, a thunderstorm rolled through the city. Emily gripped Daniel's hand, her face pale with pain and determination. "You've got this," he whispered. "You're the strongest person I've ever known." Hours later, their daughter entered the world with a soft cry, wrapped in warmth, bathed in love. Emily held her close, tears sliding down her cheeks. "You're free," she whispered to the child. "You'll never be caged. Not like I was." Daniel kissed them both, his voice thick. "Welcome home, baby girl." They named her Hope, because that's what she was, and what they'd fought for. Weeks later, Emily sat on the same courthouse steps where their story had started. Hope slept in her arms. Daniel joined her, 2 cups of hot cocoa in hand. "Full circle," he said. Emily smiled. "From a forced contract to this." "To forever," he whispered. She looked down at their daughter, then up at the sky. "Do you think she'll ever know how hard we fought to give her this?" "She won't have to," Daniel said, "because she'll never have to fight that way." Emily nodded. "But one day she'll hear the story. All of it. And she'll be proud," he said. Clarissa remained behind bars. No headlines. No pity. Just silence. Her name faded into dust, while Emily's legacy only grew. Her relationship with her father stayed distant but civil. He visited occasionally, always bringing flowers for his granddaughter. Emily never forgot what he didn't do, but she no longer let it define her. "We're not what happened to us," she told Hope one evening. "We're what we become despite it." Daniel listened from the door, pride swelling in his chest. This woman, once broken, now glowed with power, love, and grace. She was everything Clarissa never wanted her to be. 1 year later, they hosted a gala at the Emily Grace Foundation. The guest list included survivors, advocates, and those who once walked in Emily's shoes. She stood on stage, Hope on her hip, Daniel beside her. "I was once a girl with no voice," she told the crowd. "Today I speak for thousands. For every girl forced to stay silent. For every contract that tried to steal her freedom. We are not property. We are power." The room erupted in applause. Hope giggled. Daniel kissed Emily's cheek. "You did it," he said. "No," she replied. "We did it together." After the gala, they danced under the stars. Just the 2 of them. No cameras. No obligations. Just love. "Remember the first time we danced?" Emily asked. "You were stiff," he teased. "You were terrified," she laughed. "But look at us now." They swayed slowly, the night breeze gentle. Hope asleep in a stroller nearby. "What now?" Daniel asked. "Now we raise her," Emily replied. "And we keep building, not for show, for real impact." "And for us?" he asked. Emily smiled. "We keep choosing each other, every day. Forever, forever." The next morning, Emily watched the sunrise while feeding Hope. The city glowed golden, fresh with promise. Daniel joined her, arms around her waist. "This is it," she whispered. "Our real life." "No more shadows," he said. "Only light." They stood there for a long time, 3 heartbeats beating in sync. No cages, no contracts, just freedom, just family. Their journey had begun with betrayal, contracts, and pain, but it ended with forgiveness, healing, and hope. The girl no one wanted had become a woman the world looked up to, and the man who once bought her had become her forever. In a world full of broken arrangements and dangerous choices, theirs became a story of redemption, proof that love, when chosen freely, could rewrite any fate. And as the morning sun lit their faces, one thing was clear: their story wasn't over. It was only just beginning.